I've kind of been on a top-down action game mood as of late, so when I came across stories during a sale, I couldn't pass it up. Plus, when I looked into it for a little bit, it seemed to have some interesting setup tools. But first, this is combat overview. In this series, I go over the general controls to the game's main mechanic or mechanics, who or what we use those tools on, and to see how it all comes together. A bit more in depth, but that's what I do. On square, we got our main attack doing a 2-hit looping combo, just a simple 1-2 swipe. Now, Stories does have some Arkham-inspired combat going on here, and one of the mechanics brought over are perfect strikes. So as your hit lands, press attack again, you do a perfect strike which deals extra damage. Holding square or grab an enemy, you can even go for it mid-combo just by holding it. You'll stay in place, aim wherever, and releasing will toss him in that direction. Now this grab has a few uses. One, wherever you grab can be used as a human shield, which is pretty funny. It's super useful to crowd control, because not only will that enemy be floored for a bit, they even topple over nearby enemies too. Cool thing is, floored enemies can be instant killed with just one regular hit. On triangle, we have this hook shot. It'll pull enemies who are either standing or laid out, can help start your next combo, or you can grab them to do any of its numerous uses. Our main defense is this counter, so when you see this exclamation point, aim the left thumbstick towards that enemy and press attack. It's kind of like Metal Gear Rising's parries basically. Now counters will cancel out whatever you're doing, allowing you to get them on reaction and back to back. And when you get a counter, you have some options here too. So pressing square again will kick them to the ground. Doing the same thing a throw does, how it'll floor them, topple other enemies and all that. Or you can grab to do that crowd control, use as a shield, that type of thing. And later upgrades will actually give you the slowdown time effect after a successful counter. We also have this dash on X. You're not invulnerable during it, so mainly used it as a reposition tool to escape tight spots. It does that pretty well because it cancels out your attacks and you can zip through multiple enemies while doing some damage. Good too, if you see an enemy winding up an attack, you can dash at them to interrupt that. Just not shield enemies at the start, so just look out for that. On the HUD, we got our health of course. To the left of it, we have our 4 swords we can swap on the fly with the D-pad. And this bottom meter is shared between them to use their ability on R2. We have self-healing, fire to deal damage over time, ice to freeze enemies in place. The last one is increasing both your attack and movement speed. To fill it up, hits won't refill it, the kills will. Now these white pips at the very bottom are used for every dash and hook shot we do. It comes back super fast, but it's just something to manage. When it comes to how upgrades work, after every encounter, you'll be given XP based off your performance. Like how high your combo went, how many different tools you mixed in, and whether or not you got hit at all. And once you level up, you get a skill point to spend at these altars, where we have this full page of skills to drop points in. There's also workbenches to craft those 4 swords. No durability or anything like that to worry about. Once you make it, you keep it forever. Now you do need ore and specific stones in these chests to craft and upgrade them, which the max level is level 2. Cool to have this steady flow of new sword types to change up combat a bit. I definitely say focus on making the base swords first, since they act as keys as well to specific doors, which open up side areas for extra fights and rare chests. That's because gems randomly appear in those rare chests. Get equipped 3 of these little extra accessories, giving passive buffs like higher defense against physical and magic damage, faster attacks, higher crit chance, and more. There's only 7 gems in total. Again, this game isn't loot heavy at all, and there's just little extras for exploring. The enemies you'll see are these sword jobbers setting up easy counters, but you'll see these shields who of course block your attacks. To open them up, you can toss an enemy into them to break their shield, or you can hook shot them away from them. There's explosive enemies where making any kind of contact with them will set their timer off, so just attacking once, you can dash through them, or you can hook shot them to set up a trap. And a good follow-up is to grab and toss enemies in that little area for that splash damage. There's orange spirits who will stay back, slowly tracking you with a timed explosive. You can just dash out of the way, but hitting them just once will have them teleport. Again, one swipe, dashing through, tossing an enemy at them are all good ways to interrupt their setup. And blue spirits will buff nearby enemies, making them more powerful and more aggressive. It's a bit small of a roster, but they all interact with each other, having you approach things different depending who's there. And that story is the path of Destinies. This game starts out pretty strong. Within the first 30 minutes you get Nero's grab, Metal Gear Rising's parries, and Arkham's perfect strikes. It made the combat just instantly solid and fun to play. Now with the name being Stories, there is an emphasis on it. You go through this pick your own adventure setup, and you get different areas based on these choices made, with slight story beats changed. It's the same handful of stages, do have some replay value since different paths being locked behind doors giving you alternate paths with later revisits. Now all of this is a risky setup because you kind of have the standard of getting those back-to-back fun additions from the skill tree and swords, but as it goes on, levels require a little too much XP and there isn't enough fights to match that. But even then, the skill tree gives less interesting stuff pretty soon after. It just boils down to a bit more range on stuff, or a little more damage on things, more health or extended meter for our swords, powers, stuff like that. You do have the slowed down time on counters and one other interesting skill, but I missed out on those later upgrades because the grind starts to set in. And add that with returning the same stages over and over, kinda getting repetitive. But once you've seen all the paths, there's not as fun exploring, so you end up just speed running through to advance the story to get the true route ending. It didn't feel like this till the last hour of my 7-hour playtime, and after beating the game like 8 or 9 times. So I definitely had my fun while it lasted. If only they had some combat arenas like Arkham games did, have set rooms with specific enemies, or some with heavy on the stage hazards, or even an endless one to help with the XP grind. This could have helped a ton to have just some arcadey fun, because I do like the combat a good bit, but having the stages and story be mandatory to get just a little glimpse of fighting isn't fun anymore like it was at the start. Still, super fun at the beginning, and as one of the top-down action games I played, I'd still say it's one of the better ones, if not the best top-down action game I played.